Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, I don't know. You could be listening to this any time of day, in any year, any month. This is Jonathan Hemlock, and I'm lying in bed, contemplating a film I've just seen. And the film in the title, of course, of this video, my first video, is Alien Romulus. And I'm kind of stunned by it. And not in an energetic, positive way. A life-changing cultural experience. No, I'm just, I don't know, a little bit angry in many ways. And I know that's silly because it's a movie and I should really be getting angry about global conflicts that are threatening to escalate and take us over the edge into a new generational war, global war. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit too despondent. Maybe that's a problem when after seeing this film. Maybe I'm feeling a little too depressed. But no, not to trivialize the experience. You know, film is important, and I think it's been in a steep intellectual decline for, I don't know, maybe probably the last 20 years, maybe 15, 20 years. And it's really reaching its nadir. I have an emotional attachment to aliens because as a child, I mean, you know, I didn't actually watch them until I was like a teenager, but I was aware of the film, aware of the movie posters and the mystery and the horror and unease that, you know, listening to, you know, fellow school friends that maybe seen illegal, you know, video copies of the film, or maybe I remember somebody bringing a copy of the Walt Simonson illustrated book, Alien: The Illustrated Story, and just going through the pages of that, thinking, "Oh my God! Imagine seeing this as an actual movie." So you have to be aware of what, you know, the power that this entirely, you know, invigoration of the horror and sci-fi genre, sort of post Star Wars, as well. The impact that it had on young minds like mine, and it's stuck with me forevermore. That forebodingness, that fear of space and what's out there and beyond there, and I mean, it's very rare that aliens are portrayed as amiable and empathetic and emotional. They tend to be like subjects of horror anyway, but nothing quite as, you know, if anything really truly defined that word alien, it was Giger's vision. It's just something we'd never seen before. And the idea of that from artwork into cinema, I mean, for me, it was just creating a whole new sense of horror and foreboding that I'd just never experienced before, and had exactly, I would say, an equal impact upon me as Star Wars did, as Jaws did. I mean, this was just, you know, an era of real innovation. And I mean, there's been several examples of this throughout cinematic history, several, you know, within every decade, usually there's really significant storytelling, innovation and imagination. And I don't know whether it's because we live in an age where we kind of just have everything now. I feel we can do anything with ease and just sort of hurling money at it. that we're getting the kind of film that Alien Romulus represents. I'm really torn as well in many ways because there's some that don't get me wrong. There's some very very good bits, and they are bits. I mean, it's the world building, the taste of Jackson's Star that we get, that that recreation of that kind of Hadley's Hope, heavily polluted industrial, like working in Sheffield in 1977 or something, or living in Glasgow in the 1950s, but in a kind of retro-futuristic way. I love seeing a bit more of that. It reminded me a little bit of the opening scenes of Blade Runner as well in many ways. Obviously not quite as sexy as that, but it felt real, and I like that. I liked some of the new elements of the expansion of the lore, LORE, the evolution of the alien. Seeing that, always wondered, how if it cocooned itself, and to actually see that on screen, that was quite nice, in that kind of psychosexual cocoon stroke genitalia that's very Giger-esque, but perhaps still not quite as grotesque as Giger could have made it. So yeah, I liked seeing the life cycle, although I did think the life cycle of the creature was too quick, because we just can't wait to see it, and the producers just can't wait to show it. But besides these kind of visual cues and maybe some aspects of the performances as well, I just thought to myself, what the hell am I watching? Is this cinema? Is this for all the money and all the talent that's involved? And there's clearly talented people involved in this, on and off screen. Fede Alvarez, the director, from his interviews, I feel that there's, there is an integrity about him. This is a smart guy. But of course, he's not playing with his own money. He's playing with the money of, partly, money from Disney, which has been acquired from, various institutions as well, and companies like BlackRock, I don't know, JP Morgan. So it's all conditional. It's like, okay, we'll give you a limited kind of sandbox, and you can impose some of your personality on this, but as part of the deal, you've got to compromise your integrity, your art, because this is not getting to screen unless you do these things that our researchers would suggest are necessary to get an audience. I think if we'd seen a 100% Fede Alvarez film, and I hate to say this because you never know, it might just have been a 100% Fede Alvarez film, but something tells me that it just wasn't. But I think if he'd made this sort of 20, 30 years ago, when perhaps the stakes were maybe not quite as high, we would have had a really, really original piece of entertainment, or an expansion of the story of the first two films that was worthy. This was, this is symbolic of, I think, what's wrong with cinema right now, with entertainment right now, with popular culture. We're living in a karaoke culture, and this has been it's escalated. This is it's been around. I think the first signs of it are really, in my opinion, sort of the derivative music of the British 1990s indie music scene, where everybody wanted to sound like the bloody Beatles or the Stones, and it was just too overt, without truly having any other. You can be derivative, but you can still put your own original input into it and make it sound unique. it was becoming clear that we were just becoming it's almost something cabaret about this evolution in art. I think Chris Gore says in Film Threat, in his review, it was a tribute band. Tell it as it is. Clearly picked a side. Good for him. And I'm kind of, inclined to agree with a lot of the things he claims about the state of television and film at the minute. And that again is not to undermine, Fede Alvarez, clearly a fan. I love that he tried to give us answers that many fans were hoping that the films sort of failed to give over the years. He tried to offer some clarity, a bit more insight into Weyland-Yutani. Again, I don't know if that's totally necessary. We just know that they're this ominous corporate being, which I think, I don't know, I would have liked them to explore Mother a bit more. Mother, is that the true hive mind that we should all be fearful of? But yeah, I can see that Fede is a fan, and it's well intended, but my God, some of those callbacks, that they were actually more offensive than the CGI used to recreate our beloved Ian Holm. I quite like Alien 3's opening, the opening card, the fanfare, the 20th Century Fox fanfare, the perversion of that. When I heard that in Alien 3, that shook me. I thought that this is immediately sets the tone again. When I heard it this time in Alien Romulus and the opening few frames, I just thought, oh God, wait a minute, what are we in for here? And actually, the film does start off, kind of okay, but when I hear everything from Yaphet Kotto's "This place gives me the creeps," when I compare that to the young lad they get to repeat that line once he's boarded the Romulus, it's not the same. It's just not. I think it's Bjorn who delivers the line in Romulus, but it's just not got any gravitas behind it. I've got to ask myself, what's more egregious? The almost cruel and exploitative recreation of Ian Holm back into the franchise, or all of those stupid callbacks that are in the script. I mean, I don't even want to talk about, get away from her, you bitch. I mean, I don't even know. What on earth were they thinking when it had such impact and such power, and it was so earned in the original Aliens, and delivered so powerfully as well by Sigourney Weaver. But even the Kaylee Spaney's character doing that sign-off at the end, which we've already heard a couple of times in earlier films. I mean, is that some sort of directive? If you survive a disaster out in space, do Weyland say, "Oh yeah, by the way, you've got to do a recording and say these exact lines. This is me signing off, the only survivor." I mean, I just, to think that somewhere out in space as well, Ripley is floating away, having said those things several decades ago, only for them to be word for word mimicked by Kaylee Spaney, whose character name I actually forget. Sorry, at the minute. That's not great, is it? They all tried their best. The cast. I don't doubt that. You can see the effort, but it's well intentioned but misplaced casting. It reminded me a little bit of the problems with Alien 3, whereby just too many British actors sounding the same, and too regional to a point whereby it's kind of, I mean, even for British ears, it's kind of grating. It sounds like musical theatre actors pretending to be from East Midlands, which, is a very unique accent. I don't know. There's several things that just kind of took me out of the film. The deep fake, the callbacks in the script. I mean, they're really bad. Really, really bad. Unforgivable. And the casting of a very young bunch of actors that clearly talented, but needed some older characters. I mean, they could have had some more survivors aboard the ship as well. I just don't understand how everybody, with the exception of Rook and a few corpses are just left on there. I mean, it's they could have really, really done with introducing some fatherly figures, perhaps parental figures, the parents they never had. I would have rather seen David actually as a replacement for this Rook character. I mean, much as people loathe, I would say, listen, Alien Covenant made some money, didn't make multi-millions. Well, but it's had an audience. Millions of people have watched it. I think to leave David stranded and floating in the fringes of some other universe, kind of too cruel for what was a character I think many people had invested in and actually quite enjoyed. So it would have been great to have him aboard. You can imagine Fassbender playing it, the body severed, going, oh God, not again. This happened to me before. Thanks. Oh God, how wonderful to see you. As he sees the young team. If you're from Scotland, that's what you'd call them. The young team come on board, and he'd be so thankful and grateful that they'd come to rescue him, and he'd be so sincere and telling them, recounting the disaster, but actually could become like a father figure for them, and then only to lead them to their doom as he tries to ensure that the pathogen is salvaged and he can continue in his experiments. Fassbender could have done that, and then he could have killed him off at the end of it, and that would have been he would have been a great villain to have on board. This villain, this Rook character, is just not realized well enough, either visually or in the script. So for an extra 5-10 million, I don't know how much would Fassbender want for that. They should have brought him in. For God's sake, if you're going to bring the engineer back right at the end as they do in this film, albeit a mutation of the engineer as this kind of newborn, then bring David back as well. Let's give him the send off he needs, because no matter what, he was a really entertaining character in the Prometheus and Covenant films, which I have problems with as well. Come on, they're not great. Prometheus had the greatest trailer. It promised so much. It was probably the greatest trailer of the late 20th, early 21st century. Not seen anything like it. It really did. I thought, oh my God, we're back. This is the real Alien is back. It was a thing of beauty. And then for that final film to, again, have moments, but ultimately be ruined by just some stupid story choices. So anyway, but they committed themselves, didn't they? They made Prometheus. They spent hundreds of millions, Prometheus and Covenant, and people are invested in it. We own the DVD, and we don't like to be left hanging. So bring David into this partial reboot. But they didn't, and we have what we have, and it's a brave choice. It just doesn't work. And surely when they were watching it in the edit suite, telling me in the heart of hearts, did they go, it's just fine, it's great, it'll do, it'll be a talking point, it'll keep us, trending on Twitter for a couple of days. They went with it. And of course, that whole birth sequence at the end as well, I quite liked Isabella said as well, but not given a lot to do, and they kind of put her through it a little bit, and it's kind of quite abusive. But I thought that she might give birth to a queen. That would make sense again, maybe. But no, we get because we've got the pathogen. We get this chimera of the engineer and Zeno. And of course, what happened to her? She's taken the pathogen, so shouldn't she mutate a little bit? And well, I suppose she did. She was lactating gooey stuff. But Um, I think I would have rather just liked to have seen um, an engineer, a pure engineer, just being born straight out of the womb of Isabella Merced, and then rapidly, as it crawls its way across the floor, you just see it evolving really speedily into maybe having a battle with it. I thought the music and sound was really good. I thought that it was really well mixed and beautifully composed. I'll have to check the composer out. The film looks good. It looks visually, it looks really, really good. Fede has got great attention to detail and kind of recreates. It feels like it's shot on film, so it's nice to see. I like the retro future stuff. I love to hear those clattering computer sounds and bleeps, which I wish they'd used in Prometheus. Where are we now with this film now? Then where are we now with the franchise? I think it's just ever decreasing circles. A24, if they had an opportunity to acquire the rights, but it's too late now. It's made its money. Disney are just going to go down this almost condescending bastardization of, what was a beautifully discombobulating, haunting, terrifying, visionary film in 1979, and its subsequent sequel as well, which was the greatest of all genre sequels, I think. Now we're just going to go down this line of let's try and do something different, but it won't be. Jurassic Park on ice. And I don't know where to go anymore now to watch, because feels like everything's kind of like this right now. I've got to delve into the indie market, go to some film festivals. But this beloved, I mean, God, can you imagine if they remade Jaws? The Godfather. They tried it with The Omen. It doesn't work. Leave it. It maybe should just be left alone. And Star Wars, of course. Oh my God, I can't even begin to talk about Star Wars. And yeah, it's not for me. Why shouldn't it be for me now? I don't know. There was something. What I experienced back then, it can be recreated. But they're just trying to make things too convoluted, too condescending. Are we living in an idiocracy now, I wonder? Yeah, just a couple of other things that just felt not quite right. The opening sequence, much as I liked seeing the remains of the Nostromo, but there were multiple nuclear reactors aboard that ship. It incinerated, it vaporized. There was just nothing left, and with that kind of force behind it, I mean, completely scattershot wherever fragments were left. So how did they find how did they locate the cocoon? Can you secrete resin in space, create a cocoon? I mean, it's a nice idea, but I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, it reminded me a little bit of a Hammer horror film as well. Just something kind of like this underdeveloped, under-researched kind of ideas about it that were quite pretentious and tacky almost, but kind of comic booky. Yeah, I think the film just tried to, acknowledge, doff its cap to every one of the previous films. I'm surprised there's no reference to AVP there. Oh my God, please don't bring Predator into this narrative. Also, I mean, a massive, corporation like Weyland Yutani, to leave that facility stranded with all the valuable, I mean, historic research in there. I thought that we were going to have, somebody from Weyland Yutani was going to board at the end and intervene, but I know there's some reference to the fact that it's 6 months away or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But and hadn't it been floating out there for years? And anyway, wouldn't they just send people from the nearby planetoid, Starpoint Jack or whatever it's called? They've got guns. They've got police down there. I imagine. You just send a squad up there. That would might have been interesting. Weyland-Yutani. That's a story. Weyland-Yutani can't send the official military, the Marines over there to rescue the ship. So send up a squad of community police to acquire the pathogen. I mean, I like the kids. I don't think the kids were that bad, but I just think there's something about beaten, downtrodden adults, disillusioned, given a chance to represent king and country and do something worthy once in their life, and then to be actually have the rug pulled from under their feet when they arrive and realize that they're in way deep than that would have been a more interesting take, I think, than just some kids that somehow got offshore, if you want to call it, without anybody challenging them, and break into a piece of high tech like the Renaissance station. What was in the Remus part as well? I don't know. So we had Romulus. I would have liked to have had the connection with Remus a bit more. What the hell was going on there? They should have had survivors in there somehow. They could have had a family or something. I don't know, a group of role models. I don't know. It's a frustrating film because I see some ideas and I just think, oh my God, what are you doing? Karaoke culture. This is where we are, and we should be really, really concerned, because how on earth does new talent, new stories, how does that break through into the mainstream media now, when all we're doing is just putting things on a playlist and repeating it over and over again? I know Deadpool and Wolverine kind of joke about that, but that's guilty of the same goddamn thing, really. Fan service as well. Geeks have suddenly got the money, and they Hollywood knows that's the audience, and for decades we've been buying into this stuff, and now we've got to give them what they want. We're at this age, we can do anything we want, but that's at the expense of no story. We're a pastiche, and we're going to be duller, less interesting, more vulnerable and malleable people as a result of it. I do have optimism, though, with Noah Hawley. He's got an exceptional track record. You see, the thing is, once you get a track record like that, you have more leverage. Fede may be still regarded as an indie director in many ways, but Noah Hawley is, when you make series like Fargo, no doubt about it, that's a great crime drama. When you make Legion, what else has he made? He's made some good stuff. I think Alien Earth, under his guidance, his role as showrunner, and I'm hopeful that that's going to be the unnerving kind of sinister corporate drama that Alien kind of should be in many ways, deception, betrayal. Oh, and yeah, one final thing as well. The Xeno was a bit part player in Alien Romulus. I felt really disappointed in the way that it was used, except for the birthing scene. I quite like that, but the facehuggers were okay. See, I don't see the point in if you notice the facehuggers on their limbs, on their digits, they've got hooks on there. I mean, I thought there'd be an opportunity there for that to rip the face off some of the cast. And maybe there was just too few cast to do all these things. You could have done with a bigger cast of and more memorable characters to sort of be rooting for to have taken away from us at the bitter end in some really grotesque way. Anyway, I think I've just about said everything I need to say about you know what. Alien Romulus. See it once. And if it goes into streaming, I'm going to just go skip through bits that I liked, I think. Because I kind of like the world building and the lab stuff, but oh my God. I didn't think I'd have this feeling again. Another disappointing Alien film. I don't know what next film I'm going to talk about next. I'm going to pick something out. Something I enjoyed. But this has been Jonathan Hemlock, and I hope we meet again.